Now, moving on to the more serious aspect of Git and GitHub. Now, if you can see this, right, you can see some codes that is on your screen. So we call them commands. Now, you asked a question. You said, "Is Git a programming language?" No, Git is not a program. Just like HTML is not a programming language, or CSS is not a programming language. But it is a version control tool. That's what Git is. Git is a version control tool using what? Tracking your project. So, of course, it is code. Not necessarily a programming language, but it's also code. You understand? Now, you have commands that you write to ensure that your projects are tracked and easily uploaded to GitHub. These are the commands. Now, these are Git commands. Again, let me explain what Git commands are. Git commands are those commands or codes you write to track the changes to your project, or also use them collaborating with other developers. Those are Git commands. I hope it's clear. I hope I'm not speaking too much grammar. That's basically what Git command is. Now, okay, so let me explain it again. Looking at this place, what can you see? Codes, right? Now, this is what we call Git commands. Now, Git commands are used in what? Writing the commands to track your project, track the changes to your project, track the current status of your project. And they're also used in what? Collaborating with developers. Yes, you use Git in tracking, but how do we not track? By writing these commands. You understand? That's what Git commands are. Now, I'm going to be listing out some of the basic Git commands today. We're going to be doing them. Then in our next class on Monday, that's why I'm doing it today, so that you have today. Let's say you want to rest today. You have midnight. You have tomorrow. Yes, you have to. You don't want to code in the midnight. You say? What did you say? Is what? Okay. What's Hallelujah challenge? Okay. I think I know it. So okay, and now after you do your Hallelujah challenge, okay, you can also still program, but it's fine. You have Saturday, right? You have Sunday, you have Monday morning. You understand? So afternoon to 2:30. So you have 3 days. Okay, 2 days plus. You barely have time. Sorry. So so what you need to do is that you need to just go ahead and study all of this. Now I'm doing this today because I want you to get introduced to it. I'm giving you assignments over the weekend. And the assignment is just for you to go ahead and study everything it is you can study on Git. I'm not going to give you like a target. Okay, I want to no. Everything you can study between now and Monday on Git, go ahead and study. And there's a reason why I'm saying this, because if you can do this, then I'm very, very sure you won't have issues with Git. Git is a very, very delicate thing. It is very easy. It is very easy, but it is also very easy to not get. It's very easy to understand Git. It's also very easy to miss the point on Git. That's how easy it is. So, and if you miss the basics, you can't get it again. It's not swear. That's how Git is. You cannot understand it. Basics of Git is how you can build with the basics. So once you miss the basics, it's not possible for you to understand it again. So what I want you to do is, I'll send you this link. Read on it. Go ahead and read on it. If you can read on it, then I'm very, very sure that it will be easier for you to understand everything about it. And not just with practice. Practice. All right. So now you have this. Now, one thing is, all right, you know what? I'm going to pause this here and I'm going to go into something that I know that you will need, right? So before you can start writing all of these things, you need to know something about Linux commands. So now I can skip Linux commands and just go ahead and start writing this, but I don't want that. I want you to understand certain things about Linux commands. So first things first, I need you to come to your search bar and search for CMD. or command prompt. Can you see CMD? If you don't have CMD, search for PowerShell, Microsoft PowerShell or Windows PowerShell. You have CMD. Okay, you know what? Use PowerShell instead. Search for PowerShell. 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 No, not Windows Launcher. Windows PowerShell. Okay. Now just open it up. Open PowerShell up. PowerShell. Just open the first one. Just open up the first one. So open up PowerShell, then you should have something like this. Now, one thing about PowerShell is, no, you don't have to have it. Just open up PowerShell. Just open up PowerShell, don't worry. Sorry, I'm supposed to write clear instead. This is how it's going to look like. Can you see it? Good. Just open up PowerShell. Now, before I continue, there's something we call operating systems. I've heard of operating systems. Good. Now, in devices, we have a lot of operating systems. We have iOS, we have Android, we have Windows, we have Mac, Mac OS or Mac iOS, same thing. And we also have Linux. I think Chrome also has its own operating system. I'm not really sure. We have Linux. Linux is an operating system. What is an operating system? Operating system is just a particular system created for specific devices, just for them to function properly. That's really what it is. So you have Windows. You have HP laptops. HP laptops have which operating system installed? Windows. You understand? So they are Windows operating system. Same thing with what? Mac. Mac has iOS as the what? As the operating system. Now, Linux also is an operating system. But each operating system, they have their way of functioning. On Windows, you have control, and the keyboard is quite different from how Mac is being operated. Mac is totally different from how Windows is operated. Now, it's the same way with what? Linux. But the difference on your Mac and your Windows, there are similarities, right? You can still see what you're operating. You use your mouse, controller, and all of these things. But on Linux, basically how you move about or how you control your Linux OS is with what? Commands. And we call them what? Linux commands. So this will come in. We call them Linux commands. You understand? Now, these Linux commands are how you navigate your ways around Linux operating systems. Now, I'm going to be explaining some basic Linux commands for you to understand. Now, why am I explaining these things? I need you to be familiar with the terminal. For you to write your Git codes, for you to write anything, you need to be familiar with what? Terminal. So you need to be familiar with, okay, how this is how you write commands. First of all, understand it. Even if you don't understand it, just fail at it and understand it. You understand? That's why I want to explain Linux commands first. Now I'm going to be explaining certain things to us. The first is going to be mkdir. That's the first Linux command that I'm going to be explaining. Sorry, mkdir. I'm going to be explaining rmdir. I'm going to be explaining rm. I'm going to be explaining ls. I'm going to be explaining cd. Okay, I should have even brought cd up. cd. We're also going to be talking about touch. Thank you. We're also going to be talking about mv. We're going to be talking about cp, which is copy. Cat also. So I think that's enough for now. You see, npm is a package installer. It's not. That's why I feel like the light is going to disturb you from seeing it clearly. You can dim the light a little bit, still on it, but change the color. Is it clear? Is it okay? Or is it in the brighter color? Do you need a brighter color? It's affecting your eyes. Okay. Just, you can't see it. Use the white color then. All right. Can you see it now? First one is CD. Second one is MKDIR. Third one is what? RMDIR. Then you have RM, you have LS, you have touch. I think this touch is not going to correct. Let's check new item. It should be a new item. Yeah, it should be new item. Yeah, new item. Probably new item of touch. All right, we'll check it out. So MV, then we have CP, and then we have what? CAT. Now the first one I will be starting with is what? CD. CD is the easiest of them all. What CD means is what? Change directory. Now, in Linux, folders are known as what? Directory. In Linux, folders are what? Known as directory. So if I'm saying change directory, what am I saying? Change folder. So is that I'm changing folder, or I'm what? Is that I'm entering one folder, or I'm leaving one folder? Now in Linux, things move back and forth, like forward and backwards. So is that you move front or you go back? It's just the same way with this. So for instance now, if I open up this folder, so if I open up this folder, instead of using your mouse to click things, you use your what? Commands, Linux commands to move front or backwards. And how do you change files or folders? You use what? CD, which is what? Change directory. Now, for instance, let me show you what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to just CD back. Now, this is for Levi, like this is a particular directory. You know what? Let me just CD into something else. Let me list out this thing. Now, let me say I want to go into, now as you can see, let me come back here. So if you come here, local disk C, you have what? Users, right? Just the same thing that you have here. So just the same way you have this here. Local disk C, users. You understand? It's the same thing with this place. Right there, the only difference, you're using your mouse here. On this place, you're using what? Commands. So you have local disk C, then users. What's the next one there? This, right? Good. Now, it's the same way, it's the same thing with this for Levites. Now, I want to list out every single thing that I have here. Let me just clear this. Now, under this particular folder, you have all of these folders, right, and files. You also have desktop, right? Isn't it? Now, let's say I want to go into desktop. I'll double click, right? Now, in Linux, what I have to do is I'll have to do what? CD, then what? Desktop. That's all. Take me to desktop. So instead of moving with my mouse, I'm moving with what? Command, my keyboard. That's basically what it does. So I'm moving into what? Desktop. Now, if I come right here now, for Levite, right? If I want to move into this, I have to double click. Now, as you can see other folders. Now, let's say I want to go into projects. What will I also do? CD what? Project. Since I'm already in the desktop, right? So I'll do CD project. Now, note there's a space there. CD then what? Project. Now that's it. Okay, I think it's projects. Yeah, projects. You understand it now? Now, this is how you change directories in this. Now, let's say I want to go back to desktop. How will I do it? I'm already in project now. It's just saying that in this place, I'm already in project, right? If I want to go back to desktop, what I have to do is to come back. Isn't it? Not exactly. It's still CD. You will use CD. CD what? Project, have you? Desktop, right? Is that correct? Hmm? Do you think it's correct? Why? You're already in desktop and you're already in project. Desktop is not under project. You only use CD a particular name. You only CD into a particular name if that particular name is a folder under the parent folder. But in this case, project is a what? Is a folder under desktop, not the other way around. So it's not going to go back to desktop. So what you did was use CD, then to full stop. Then if I click on it, it takes me back to desktop. So now, to enter a particular folder, use what? CD, the folder name. To go back to the previous folder, use what? CD, then full stop rather. You understand? That is how it is done. Let me just write it out so you understand. Yeah, go ahead. So you are going back to the previous folder. Yes, CD. Projects. Project. CD. Full stop. Yes. So how do you change directory? You CD, then what? Name. CD name of project, right? Name of folder. Then to go back, use what? CD full stop. So CD back. So let's say back CD full stop, right? Then you have what? Forward. CD then name. Now this is exactly how it is done. For list contents, directory content. Node. Node is not necessarily it's not necessarily a command line. You understand? Node is a framework, it's a JavaScript framework, or not necessarily framework, a JavaScript runtime engine. You understand? So basically what it does is that it basically deals with JavaScript. That's what Node does. So you can actually use Node to work on your front end, which is with React, or you can use Node to work on your back end with Express. You understand? That's basically what Node is. But Node is like, it's not necessarily a command line. Now, PowerShell is a command line, whereby using was writing command, Linux command lines or Linux command prompt. You understand? So now, what ls does is that what ls lists what directory content. Now, you've probably seen something like this before. Now, for instance, for me to know what was inside Polybyte, I had to come here to check what was inside Polybyte, right? For me to know what was inside this particular desktop, file, I had to come here to know it. What if you don't want to always have to do this? You just want to check it right here. Use what? List. That's ls and enter. Now, ls will list out all the folders and files, not just folders and files inside of that particular folder you're writing ls for. Now, right now, I can see that okay, there's forked, there's FormSpree, there's front-end classes, there's this particular project, there's new folder. Now I can go ahead and what cd into anyone that I want. So I can say FormSpree. Can you see that it's working? Okay. Who is saying is it looking strange? Now that's basically what ls does. Now what ls does, ls is list. So it lists out all the directories and files. Not ls. Okay, what are you asking? Are you asking that instead of using ls, you can just go back and check? Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because you will not, for instance, you are working with your VS Code. You will not have time to go and be opening up your file explorer. So what you have to do is what? Check out your terminal here. There's a terminal here. Then you are going to see, what's the name? The file path. Just give me the moment. Probably like 2 seconds and it should come up. So, okay, yeah. So now, can you see the file path? There's a file path here, right? Now, let's say in class 10, you have assets, isn't it? Let's say you want to go into assets. How do you go into assets? Assets is under which folder? I'm coming. I'll explain it. Assets is under which folder? Class 10, right? So how am I going to get assets? Assets. How will I get assets? Well, I explained it just now. How will I get into the assets folder? CD assets. You understand? So CD assets. Hey, that was a mistake. So CD assets, yeah. So this should work. As you can see, I'm now in the assets folder. You understand? I'm now in the what? In the assets folder. Now you asked the question, you said, how did I get the terminal? Now in your VS Code, there's always a terminal. And how are you going to get your terminal? You come to view, then can see terminal here. You click on terminal and then it automatically appears. But right now, I don't want to use VS Code terminal because I want to first of all explain with PowerShell or command line for you to understand these things first. But I'm just showing you that what ls will do is that ls will list out every file or folder or content in a particular folder. That's how it is. Now, see FormSpree now. If I want to check out what is inside FormSpree, I can say what? ls. Now, as you can see, FormSpree only has 2 files. What are the 2 files? app.js and what? index.html. And it's even telling me the amount of lines this index.html has. 590. The app.js has what? 0. Does not have anything inside of it. That is one thing about Linux. I hope it's clear to everybody. Is it clear? Is it clear? All right, good. So now that is what ls is. Now let's say I want to go back to desktop. How will I go back to desktop here? Exactly. That's it. List will list out every single thing. CD will change directory, change the folder. Now the next thing I will be talking about now is what? mkdir. mkdir. So what is mkdir? mkdir stands for what? Make directory or create directory. Make directory. Creating a folder. That's what make directory does. Now, for instance, if you come to this place, so let's say take this project for example. Now I can right click, right, and to create a new folder, folder. Now I can say let's just say what should I call it? Class 15. Let me just, I'm not sure it's class 15, but let me just get for class 15, right? So let's say we're creating class. Let's say we're creating class 15, isn't it? Now, you see, I've forgotten. I actually lost track of it. But because of the project, that's why. Now, class 15. Now, let's say you have this class. You've created class 15 with your what? With your what's the name? With your normal file explorer, right? Let's say you want to do the same thing with what? With Linux, with your Linux command. Use what? mkdir, which is what? Make directory. And how do you do it? Now, you are inside the desktop, right? And let's do the same thing. Let's create a new what's the name? A new folder inside of the desktop. All you have to do is what? Do mkdir, right? And then the name of the file you want to create. So let's say class what? Class 15. Now there is an issue here, and the issue is because it is treating class and 15 as two separate values or two separate things. So what you need to do is you need to put them together. And how do you put them together? Use a what? Quotation mark. So you put them in quotes, and automatically class and 15 are now what? Together. So if I click enter, what happens? It has automatically worked. Now as you can see, it's saying that what I've created what? Class 15. Now if you list out documents now, if you list out the content of desktop now, class 15 will be there. But class 15 was not here before, right? So what was here before? Flutter classes. But now as you can see, Flutter classes, now you can see class 15 is now at the top. This shows that you can also what? Create. Now let us go back here and let us see what we have. If we are going to have class 15, now as you can see, we have class 15 here. Now this is how it works with Linux. I explained something to you before I went into this, and I said Git is what we are getting into. For you to understand Git, you need to know how to use your command line. Did you remember? Good. Now, for you to know how to use your command line, you need to understand the basic concept of Linux commands. You still don't understand. No, it's not about as time goes on. You need to understand that certain things will lead to certain things. Okay. I got a question. So now, for instance, I get a question. I just showed you something now. So now, let's say you have front end and back end. Let me just show you how project works. So now you have, in this place, you have client, which is your front end, and then you have back end. Good. Now you have what? Back end, which is the server, right? Now you have front end files in your client. You have back end files in your client. How are you going to probably let's say you want to work with Git? How are you going to work with Git on your front end? Let me ask the question again. You have backend, separate folder. You have client, separate folder. You want to work with Git. How are you going to work with Git? I just explained to you now that Git works with what? Command line, right? Now, I'm going to come here now. You want to go into your client and make certain Git changes in your client. How will you do it? You're on class 10. You want to go into your client and make certain changes with Git on your client. How will you do it? CD client. So you see why you need to understand it. Because in the long run, you will be creating these things yourself in this command line. It's very, very important for you to understand command line. Now, most of the times, you will not even remember to create files with this. I can easily come here and say mkdir, right? Images. creating an images folder here. Why? Because first of all, in some cases, your life will not depend on what? The command line. Because you're working with Git. Mm. Okay. Okay, I understand your question. What you're asking now is that how will my GitHub or my Git be connected to what we are doing here?
Yes, and how does it reference to that image? Because put an image there, and you can reference the image from PSP image, let's say under access, for example.
Now, one thing I want you to know is Git is not your regular HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. Git has its own function. The function is what? Track changes for collaboration. Just like HTML has its own, which is what? Write content. CSS has its own, which is what? JavaScript for what? Functionalities, right? Git is not doing anything on your web page. Git is just interested in what? In collaboration and what? Saving your changes, tracking your changes. It does not care about what the code you are writing in your JavaScript. It's all. You have to copy the code. So what happens is that you use Git to push your codes from this your local folder to where? GitHub. That's what it does. That's what Git does. Where you are actually tracking your codes is not here, it's on GitHub. But for you to have those codes tracked on GitHub, you need to understand what Git does. Because it's actually Git that will use in what? Pushing it. Okay. We're coming there. But I want everybody, do you understand it now? Is it clear to you now? Are you sure it's clear? Because I'm not sure it's clear to me. Is it clear? Okay. You know what? Let me pause this recording so that I want to attend to questions. I don't just want to make it. So I'm going to take questions now. You're asking a question.
Like that image,